Tom Busch, U.S. Marine, deputy,
Yep.
sheriff.
Yep.
Is it ISPCA?
USPSA.
U-
We did do some. I do a little bit of IPSC stuff. We help host it.
So you're a competitive shooter.
Yes.
And manages the Hornady. Is it a shooting park or
Yes.
what are they?
Yeah, we call it a shooting park. It's a public shooting park. The city of Grand Island owns it. We just manage it for them.
But we've known each other for
Long time.
a long time.
More than 15. So we'd probably go all the way back to probably 2007 would probably be my guess.
Is that when?
That was when I moved back.
Is it?
Yep.
Because I was working at the lumberyard back then.
You were doing the lumberyard and the sheriff's office back then.
So how long were you in the Marines?
8.5 years. I born and raised around here. Grew up in the St. Paul area. My siblings both went to school here, but I went to school in Grand Island. And then I took off here in 1999 and didn't come back, to live until 2008.
So, I guess what led you to the Marine Corps?
I have no clue. Zero clue. You ask my mom. Like, I had an uncle that was a Marine. My grandfather was in the Navy. Had grandfather that was in the Army. I have all these uncles and stuff that were kind of spread all over. And the only Marine was my uncle Trevor. And as a little kid, like, I ran around. I didn't build a foxhole when I was a kid and I was playing. I dug a fighting position. Like, so from a very early age, I knew that's what I was going to do. I was going to go in the Marine Corps, and did.
And what year was that?
1999. I had a little bit of trouble. I should have left in 98, but I had a little trouble in high school.
So that was it one of those, Judge?
Actually, yeah, it was. It was so, and I don't remember which one came first. So if you're a fanatic of following the school shootings and the violence in the United States, I got kicked out of school in between Jonesboro and Columbine. I drove to school one day. I drove my dad's pickup. I think that weekend before we had maybe shot some prairie dogs or something. State Fair was coming up, so I needed to go get the show box. So I was in FFA and showed cattle and, did all the things and drove Dad's pickup to school, and my 22 was hanging in the back window. Year before, never would have been an issue. Like, you just told the principal, hey, we were hunting either on the way to or on the way from school, and everything's great. And then all of that stuff started kicking off, and a teacher walked outside, and I was parked back behind the school out by the greenhouse. Windows were rolled down, keys in the ignition, and there's a little Rossi 22 pump, stainless steel pump, hanging in the back window. And so they were going to set a precedence with this, with everything that had started to kind of kick off in the country. And they used me as an example. So at that time, I was already in the DEP program. I was already signed up to go to the Marine Corps. And because I ended up on unsupervised federal probation, they had to release me. They couldn't do anything with me. So then I had to go to court. I think it took 9 months, 10 months, something like that to get the gun back. But they kicked me out of school. St. Paul wouldn't touch me. Palmer wouldn't touch me. Central City, Centura. Everybody's like, nope, we're done. Like, that's, this is like, we're on the forefront of all this stuff, and we want to figure out where this kind of shakes out. So nobody would take me. Now, I had never had any plans to take over the school or shoot anybody. I mean, I think there was 3 rounds left in that 22, and them 2 officers took me out, and I really wish I could remember their names so I could say it on this podcast. So maybe I get a little notoriety. But it was a uniformed officer and a plainclothes officer, and the plainclothes officer, or the uniformed officer, was kind of an ass, for lack of better terms. He's like, is there any more weapons inside this vehicle? And I was, so we're standing outside the school at Dad's pickup, and I'm like, not unless you count a skill saw and a framing hammer a weapon. And he's like, what are these? And it was ammo from a 22-250. And I was like, well, that's for a totally different gun. And you could tell it'd been in there a while. Like, you could hardly read the label, like how the old beer can rolls around underneath the seat. And I was like, that's for a totally different gun. And so, yeah, I got kicked out of school. I was 17, so they wanted me to be able to continue to do schoolwork, but they didn't want me anywhere around the school. So they're like, well, you can have somebody pick this stuff up for you, and then they can bring it back, but you can't come anywhere around the school. Well, so a buddy of mine was bringing me my homework and taking it back when I was done with it. And he started to forget, and I was 17 and didn't give a shit. And so then I was supposed to graduate in May of 98 with my class, and I had to do summer school, in between my junior and senior year to try to catch back up. Did my senior year, walked with my class, but did not have a certificate. Didn't have a signed diploma in my little folder. I had a diploma, but it wasn't signed. And then I had to go back to school for another semester. So I actually graduated high school in December of 1998. And that come back to bite me because Northwest lost my transcripts, and they did not have a copy of my diploma. So when I went to get a background check when I was working for a company called Pinkerton, they're like, they're saying you didn't graduate. I'm like, yeah, I did. So we had to find a diploma from mom. I had to thank God my mom is like every other mom in the world, and that she keeps all those keepsakes. And thank God she kept track of all that stuff because she had the diploma. So then the school took a copy of that from me. And they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, if you happen to find your transcripts, we'd like a copy of that too. So that's how that all started.
So that's an interesting story because so I'll tell you how my law enforcement career started, and it sounds really similar to yours. So, the shooting range that's just east of town.
Yeah.
You come down that road. So the original one I built.
Really?
While I was on probation. And I was actually picked up by the chief of police at that time.
Who was that back then?
Steve Studnicka.
Okay. Really?
Who was
Yes.
my first employer.
Really?
Yeah. So, but what gets even more interesting about, my story and yours. So in my senior year, I was in trouble too. I got in trouble when I was actually a junior, and I missed part of my junior year because I was in Boys Town. So I failed to meet the requirements for graduation on my senior year. I had to come back and do one semester with like 2 or 3 classes. So I actually had to walk with the next class.
The next class.
Well, then you mentioned that your transcripts come up missing, which is funny because I had applied as an insurance investigator with Progressive Insurance. And they called me and they said, hey, we're going to have to drop you from the candidate list because in your application, it says you graduated from St. Paul. We contacted St. Paul, and they said you never graduated. So when I went to the school, all my transcripts from my senior year and maybe my junior too, I can't recall for sure, but MIA are gone. And they weren't located for months. And even though I walked into the school and I said, hey, where's these transcripts at? I got a call from Progressive. They said that I never graduated here. And their response was, well, we don't remember you graduating. And I said, well, here's my diploma. And I had the full size, and I also had the little card.
Yeah, I had both too. Mom had them both. They were both together.
So I provided that to the school, and it was months later they found my transcripts. By then it was too late, but ultimately I ended up at the police department, started there, and then went to the sheriff's office. But anyways, you was telling your story, and I thought, oh man, this sounds really familiar. So
yeah.
So anyways, you graduate.
Graduate in December of 98, and my launch date was January 19th of 1999. And I remember this because I actually graduated from the Nebraska Law Enforcement Training Center on the same day. My graduation date was January 19th, and that was my deployment or my step-off date. I believe that was Lee and I were talking about this one day, and I'm pretty sure they were the same dates, January 19th. So took off, went to boot camp, went to the School of Infantry, and then ended up out at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I was with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines for almost 4 years with the CAP platoon, the Combined Anti-Armor Team, which pretty much those roles are becoming almost non-existent just because of the way that the war on terror and how we're fighting today's conflicts are kind of starting to shift. You know, we were always really worried about the Russians and the Chinese and how big their armies were and their armor capabilities, and now we're starting to shrink that down. So from there, I went to 2nd Light Arbor Reconnaissance Battalion. Was there about 2.5 years, and had another opportunity for a 3rd deployment back over to Iraq with 2nd Tank Battalion. They've got 2 infantry platoons inside Tank Battalion that was called TOWs and Scouts. And so I went over and did a deployment with TOWs and came back and became the platoon sergeant for our 2nd Tank Battalion Scout Platoon. And then shortly after that, I got to the point to where I didn't want to have to go to like recruiting duty, the drill field, the School of Infantry. I didn't want to go teach somewhere. I didn't want to go recruit people. I wanted to continue to just do infantry things. I wanted to continue to train guys and go overseas and do stuff. And that wasn't going to happen. So I decided that, and my oldest boy was born, and he was about 2.5. And we decided, well, I mean, he's starting to realize now how long a 6-month deployment actually is. So like when they were little, they had no concept of time, but as they start to get a little bit older, you know, they realize how long you're actually gone for. So we decided to make the leap and came back here. And that's probably when you and I met. You were at the lumber yard, and I was working for a local contractor. And 2010-ish, sheriff's office there in St. Paul had an opening, and Harold was the sheriff. And I remember that, how many people were in that interview. Like, I'd never done an interview with that many people sitting in there. Like, Patty was in there, and Harold was in there, and you were in there, and Chief Studnicka was in there. I was like, why is the chief of police sitting in on this interview? You know,
You're asking the wrong guy, because I don't know either.
I have no clue. And I don't mind it. I thought that was kind of neat. You know, if they there's one of my guys, Colin, we've got a youth hunt coming up, and he's at a meeting right now with the Pheasants Forever guys. But I thought it was kind of neat because then the smaller agencies, I thought it was neat, and then found out later that we didn't get along with anybody like we should. Yeah. But that cohesion, you've got these two smaller entities, these smaller agencies that are working hand in hand on stuff. So to have a representative from another agency there, probably wasn't a bad idea. Like to see, all right, this guy, he might fit the sheriff's office needs, but is he going to be an asset, or is he going to cause problems with my officers or something like that inside the city? So, yeah, it was just kind of weird. I'd never had that experience before where there was another agency sitting in on an interview.
And I think we did that. One is, that there was a lot of times between agencies, there's a little bit of conflict. And I think it has a lot to do with egos.
It does.
And I think at the time we wanted to involve the police department with hiring, because in reality, you're all going to be working together anyway. And I think it also gave the sheriff and the chief deputy at the time the opportunity to get input from somebody outside the agency on maybe what their thoughts were as well. So whether or not that would have actually swayed the sheriff in any way.
It might have. It might have. He could have had his blinders on. So maybe let's reverse that a little bit, and instead of having Harold Skank as the sheriff, let's put Dan Skank in there, for instance. A guy who I've had a relationship like since I was a wee little kid.
Sure.
I've known Dan and Kay since Dan was carrying a revolver at work, with the state patrol. I didn't know Harold until I applied with the sheriff's office. So that could have been something else to where, maybe I did have a little bit of a checkered past, but, the sheriff had his blinders on, and then having somebody that has a little bit of an outside opinion, might have been able to sway him from offering a position, or hopefully keeping a bad egg from coming in,
So let's back up a little bit. You were deployed 3 times?
Yeah, I did 4 deployments, 3 combat deployments.
We'll be right back.
Not only are many trying to remove us from our constitutionally limited Judeo-Christian ethos republic, more seem to be forgetting our Judeo-Christian Constitutionalist foundations. Not here at Constitutionalist, we talk about all these things: the past, the present, the future. Biblical community, Judeo-Christian ethos, the whole Bible, biblical community, not worldly communism. And there is a big difference. Join us, Constitutionalists.
Now, on the combat deployments, were they similar, or did you have different roles in each one of those deployments?
Let's see. All of them were a little bit different. So my first deployment, I was with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines. I was with 2-2. I was inside the cap platoon and weapons company. And we were out on deployment when we got pulled into theater. So we'd already been gone for 5 or 5.5 months. We were actually getting ready to start our trek back home. So we were actually getting ready to go back through the Straits of Gibraltar to start heading back towards the U.S., and we took a hard right, and away we went. We weren't there very long. We were there, during that invasion, that real big initial push, when everything was just chaos. So that was like we didn't have a home. Like everything was constantly fluid. We were always moving. I don't remember how long we were there. Maybe 45 to 60 days. I mean, it wasn't an extended amount of time. Because like I said, we were already gone, and basically what we were doing was bringing up all this. We were doing route clearances. We were doing convoy escorts, not our traditional anti-armor hunter-killer team stuff that you would see in that combined anti-armor team. But it was a role that there were so many supplies. Our frontline guys were moving so hard and so fast, they were outrunning water, food. They were outrunning all the supplies. So our job was to try to help bridge that gap and move as many of those convoys as we possibly could. Second deployment, I was with 2nd Light Armor Reconnaissance, so 2nd LAR. We were there we were attached to 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. We were a six vehicle platoon, 6 vehicle element, and we worked in conjunction with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, and we had a couple different homes there. A lot of route patrols, counter IED stuff, counter ambush stuff, and then went back over the next time with 2nd TOEs, and that was a lot of the same. We were there, the last time I was there, we were there 210 days. We operated outside the wire 205, and inside those 205 days that we were outside the wire, we found or hit 198 IEDs. And had 4 or 5 sustained engagements, stuff that lasted more than just a couple minutes. So every time we went over, it's just like anything else, we're evolving, or the bad guys evolve, and we have to evolve to stay in front of them. So every time it was something a little bit different, a little farther north or a little farther away from everything else. So yeah, and then the first deployment was probably the best deployment because that's what we call a libo deployment. Like all you did was train a little bit here and there, and then the rest of the time we were in Spain. We'd go to Seychelles, South Africa, hang out in South Africa and all the tourist deals, and go to Italy, get kicked out of Italy, for causing too much damage to bars. The home of the 6th Fleet, and they were out. They were out at sea, and we had been at sea for like 50 days, and they turned us loose. And in 2 days, I think we ended up in between us and the Navy causing like $45,000 worth of damage to a handful of bars in town, and they restricted everybody back to the ship. They're like, nope, get back to the ship now.
So what would be the average age group? I mean, you're probably
you're looking from 17, 18 to probably. Like the kids causing the problems, right? You're probably looking at like 17 to 18 till about 25. Like this is from your lowest of the low private to your very young, immature, cocky sergeants. Like that was that group.
It's college age kids.
College age kids. We were doing the frat boy shit.
Oh yeah.
We were doing the frat boy stuff. Yeah. It was a good time.
Did you have a deployment that was, God, I don't want to say, I kind of want to say funner.
It was that first deployment, dude. That was a riot, and you actually feel bad because Lee and I were married at the time, and you actually feel bad because they're still at home having to deal with all the bills and having to deal with, putting fuel in a car and paying on credit card bills and paying for the cell phone bill and buying groceries. And at that time, that first deployment, we didn't have any kids, but they're the ones that are at home. And here I am basically living rent free. Like I don't have to drive anywhere. I'm not paying to put gas in anything. I'm getting paid to party. And I remember we were out one time, we have this thing on the ship called split pay. And it's so like when the paycheck comes, you can opt to see how much money you want to pull from your paycheck, that would normally go into your bank account, and they'll put it into that split pay onto the ship for you. And I don't remember what I took, but it was a fraction of what we made. We didn't make a lot back then anyway, but it was a small number every couple weeks. I had just enough to where I could buy, a beer here or there, or, if we're on the ship and you wanted to buy some candy or something from the PX on the ship, you could. And I called Lee, and this is all back in the day where you had to have that calling card. It was like to dial home, it was like 17 numbers or 19 numbers to make it to where you could actually get a phone call out. And
Mike remembers our calling card number.
Do you really? I can't. I had so many of them, it wasn't even funny. And so I called Lee, so for her, it's like 2:30 in the morning, and we were in Seychelles, South Africa. And it's like 2:30 in the morning. And I call her, I wake her up. I'm like, honey, we're going out. Can I get a little bit of money out of the ATM? She's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Go ahead. Well, by the time we got to the ATM, I was about half in the bag. And I thought I was pulling out like 20 kuna or whatever it was. I ended up pulling out like $200 US, which was a very good chunk of our paycheck. Now, I have no way of putting that money back in the bank. First off, I didn't know that I took that much money. Wasn't until the next day when I'm getting yelled at by my wife for draining the bank account. And she's like, how much money do you have left? I'm like, well, I got a couple of the little green bills and 4 of these little quarter looking things. And we had a really good night in Seychelles. But yeah, she was mad at me. Yeah. But that was the funner deployment. Like that was where you got to see different parts of the world. And I'm not saying my deployments to Iraq and stuff like that weren't fun. They were. But, being 18, 19 and getting turned loose in Rota, Spain, or going to Italy, or, when we fly around, you'd end up in like Germany or something. You'd end up at like Ramstein, or you end up in Ireland. Just really cool. We got to go to where they played when was the Olympics in Barcelona, Spain? Do you remember?
Oh shit, I don't know.
We will find out.
So we went to Barcelona, and we got to go see like the soccer fields, like where they played the Summer Olympics at. Just run down, dilapidated. Just after the Olympics was over, they just left it.
1992.
1992. So that was in 1992, and I was there in early 2000, 99 to 2000. And they had just left it.
It's crazy that they build those crazy facilities, and then once it's done,
it's done.
They just walk away.
They just walk away from it. They don't use it again. And that's the way that was. To me, that was odd that a country would spend that much money to have the Olympics there, and then they just leave it sit.
Doesn't seem so odd now.
No, it doesn't. No. We leave millions of dollars like we dropped a quarter. I mean, that's the way that the world works. I mean, it's not just the U.S. There's a lot of countries that are like that. But yeah, we waste so much money and so many resources on stuff. It's unbelievable.
So you get done with your deployments, you get out of the military, you move back home, and you're working construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And So you applied for the sheriff's office where I worked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of excited about you coming on, except I think I remember your first day of work. Was it the day you were walking in to get your equipment? Was that the day that I was walking out?
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah, we had talked about it.
I know.
Like I stopped in the lumber yard one day and we were picking something up for a job that we had here in town. And you're like, hey, I think we're going to be hiring at the sheriff's office. I'm like, awesome. So I applied. The day of my interview, I was actually pouring all the concrete sidewalks, the new sidewalks, out in front of the courthouse. So like I showed up to work and I was in, nice pants, nice shirt. And we were pouring concrete, so I couldn't afford to get concrete all over me. So I ran the loader. And then it was time for my interview, and I ran upstairs, washed my hands in the bathroom on the first floor, and then ran upstairs, did the interview. And then, so my first day, show up to get all my stuff, and there goes Mike.
I think I met you at the sheriff's office door.
Yep.
And I was walking out.
Mm-hmm.
That was it for me, and you were coming in.
And I was coming in. Changing of the guard.
Yeah.
Really odd changing of the guard.
So what badge number did you have when you first started?
I started with 9499.
9499.
Yep. That was the first time they'd used it.
Yeah, because I think there might have been an 8. I can't remember who 8 was.
Yeah, Howard Jensen.
Yeah.
9498 was Howard Jensen.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yours was 9.7, Howard's was 9.8, Mike's was 9.4, Patty's was 9.5. Who was 9.3 at that time?
I don't know.
I don't know if we had a
I was
9.3.
gonna say, I don't
at
think
that
there
time.
was a 9.3.
And then
Was there even a 9.2?
I don't think there was.
Because 9.1 would have been Jerry.
But Jerry left. Jerry was not there when we started. So it was me and Brian Newmeyer because we interviewed and they hired Brian in June. So that interview was in June. And they hired Brian in June because he was at the academy going through as a non-law. And then they hired me in July. So Harold chose to hire Brian first because Brian was spending all that money, to put himself through the academy. So they wanted to get him on the payroll sooner rather than later.
How long were you with the sheriff's office before they sent you through?
So I started in July, and then, it would have been August. Sometime in August is when I started the academy.
So you went pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
What'd you think of that academy?
It made me kind of giggle. Like it was, and I understand the way that, I would have liked to have seen it a little bit more militarized, like the State Patrol's Academy. I think that is good for people to experience that. But I also understand, there's so many different agencies that go through that academy that aren't going to be that way. That when they get back, they're not going to be that, they're not going to be that strict or structured. I don't want to say that it's just, it all depends on what agency, who your boss is and how big that agency is. And, I just got kind of paid straight pay. It didn't really matter how many hours I was there every day or what I was doing. I got paid the same.
Did you stay down there or did you come home?
No, I got to come home,
man.
and that was awesome. That was awesome. And it was cool because I didn't have a room down there, so I came home every night because I had kids and I was literally 10 minutes away from the training center. So they let me come home every night. And so then, like when I was at the academy, I didn't have a room to stow all my stuff in, so I had a locker room by the gym. And it was the same locker room that the instructors would use, to after PT or whatnot, get ready for PT or shower before they went back to teaching classes. And they're like, well, somebody needs to step up and, be the leader of this class. And I'm like, that ain't me, bro. I did that for 8.5 years. Like I was a platoon sergeant and that ain't me. Like, let somebody else figure this out. Like, let somebody else have an opportunity to take on that role. And it didn't take them long. They kind of did. There was a couple of them that kind of took that cue, I guess, from them and was fine. But yeah, it was different. My experience there from some of the other guys' experience was different because they were younger. They, fresh out of college, really didn't have a ton of life skills. And then you had the guys like me, the military guys, Barry Pascal and Tommy King and Zach Meyer. Like you had these guys that had just got out of the military and come here, and you got somebody that is trying to instill discipline into other ones, and it just kind of makes you giggle a little bit because you're like, this is all eerily familiar. I think I've seen this TV show. I think we're just watching a remake.
So when you go through basics, almost everybody is probably in their 18, 19.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably some older people, probably
Some, not very
though.
many. Not very many. We had my buddy Mike Coulter, we called him Dad because he was that much older than us. Like, it's like, hey, Dad, that was what we called, because he was the old guy, because we were 18, 19, and I think Mike was like 26. So to us, like, this guy's been around the world. He's seen a thing or two. Like, this is the old guy at 26. But it's a little bit different at the training academy. Like, we had young ones that were just turned 21 to guys that were in their mid-40s.
I think our oldest guy was 50. And I was 22 when I went through.
I was 20. Let's see, what year did I go through? 2010. So I would have been 29. I'd have been 29 when I went through. And I had just come off that eye surgery. I had just put that piece of metal through my eye, and they put that artificial lens in.
Because a lot of guys, when I went through, a lot of them were college. So a lot of them were probably 22, 23 years old. They had criminal justice degrees, which for anybody listening, does zero.
Zero. I don't care what anybody says. That's the dumbest degree.
It's terrible.
Horrible.
I can't remember anybody.
They don't learn anything about the law in that class.
No, nothing.
Horrible. Nothing no offense to anybody that teaches criminal justice, but it does not set you up for a great career as a law enforcement officer.
I'm not sure what career it sets you up for.
It doesn't set you up for any career, but
I don't think so.
I mean, I think you'd be better off with a degree in basket weaving.
It'd be the same.
Yes. You'd know just as much about the law.
So did you have any crazy shit go on when you were in the training center?
No, ours was pretty mellow. Like, they had told us the class before they had, there was some hookings ups and some partyings that shouldn't have been happening in like the week of graduation, and they booted people. But ours, I don't know what it was about that class. Like, we got the lunch lady people in trouble because we kept pushing tables together, and we ate as a class. If everybody that was down there for breakfast ate together, everybody that was down for lunch, and we'd just take all these tables and we'd push them together. And there's a big one giant table with 32 people sitting around it eating supper, laughing and joking. We didn't have, and I've been back so many times helping at the academy with firearms or tactics or whatever. And they are very segregated. It's almost very high schooly, very cliquish. A lot of those other classes that I've seen, like they don't hang around each other. I mean, you just came off the range. You were just all out there in one classroom, and then you guys come in here, and now it's like you got a group of 4 over here, and then there's a group of 2 that are whispering over here, and they're just kind of spread out. So we didn't have that. So it is not, my experience is not what I have noticed over the years going down there to help guest instruct. Like, it's different.
So when I went down, what class were you in?
We were the one, oh my God, we're going to have to look this up. You might have to Google
I was
this one too.
133rd.
So I would have been like I would have graduated in December of 10 or January of 11, December of 10. And that would have been the one, it's got a 9 in it. It's got a 1 and a 9, but I can't remember what that middle number is.
So when I was down there,
What year did you go through?
97. I graduated December 12th, 97.
I wonder if we weren't like the 168th, the 169th. then, because that's 3 classes a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time. There's a lot of classes in between when you went through and I went through.
I think we had, I don't know if we had 30 some people in my class, or it might have been 40. We only lost one, which I still think is a bullshit deal. He made it all the way through week 10, and he was probably our best student. Like when we did practicals, everybody wanted to work with him.
Wanted to be with
Yeah,
that
because
guy.
the guy was super smart, and not only was he smart in the classroom, but when you put him on a practical, I mean, he was almost flawless. You wanted to be his partner because you could fuck up a little bit, and he did so
And he'd
good.
carry you.
Yeah. So, but I remember we were all sitting in class one day, and one of the
I can tell you which one I was in. I got it on my phone. It's on Facebook, so I'm listening.
anyway, so we're sitting in class, and one of the office personnel came in and called this kid out, and we're like, I don't know what that's about. And a little bit later, the deputy director of training stepped in and said, so-and-so is out and has been escorted off premises. And come to find out, when he applied, he had put down that he had never been in the military. And come to find out that he had signed up for the military. I think he made it to basic, or just about to basic. How far do you have to get before you get a D-214?
I don't know how far you'd have to make it in, you'd probably just have to make it to basic.
And I think that's...
And then if something happened, either he got deathly ill or got injured.
He got injured. And so when he applied through the training center, I think he talked to, I don't know if it was a recruiter or who the hell he talked to that gave him bad advice. But they said, man, you weren't really in. And so he put no. Well, when they did the backgrounds while you're in the training center, they found out that he had a DD-214, and so they considered that, I don't know if they, maybe a lie or something on the application, and so they booted him. And
Got him for perjury.
Yeah,
But in my opinion, that dude wasn't in the military anyway.
Yeah, and that's what we felt. That's how he felt. We talked to him afterwards because we felt bad because he was a good dude. And I think he probably would have been one of the better cops in that class. And we had some great guys. Matter of fact, our class was actually, for the most part, really close. Most of us stayed on. We had a couple of GIPD guys, I think, that because they lived right there in town, they just went home. But, man, on Thursday nights.
I found it, 178th. I was the 178th.
Well, they only have pictures to 174th. So I'm like, looking through all these pictures trying to find you because they don't have the names listed. And I'm like,
No, there's, yep.
They probably don't have the 133rd on there, though, I bet.
No, it goes back. Like, they have all those pictures.
Do they?
Like Dave Weeks. I saw Dave Weeks. I like to walk the hallway and look at all the class photos, And I was like, oh, my God, that guy doesn't look like he's aged at all. And that was years prior to me going through.
Dave went through in 2003, 2002, maybe it was 01, I can't remember.
Because he was elected and then went through, right?
Yeah, I've got some stories.
I bet you do.
But not necessarily cracking on Dave. There'll be somebody else. Maybe I'll share a story. I won't use his name, though. But the training center, I remember a couple of good stories. So Thursday nights, I don't know if Thursday nights were like this when you went through, but Thursday nights was go to the bar and get fucked up night.
it was college night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for anybody unfamiliar, most of us didn't drive our personal vehicles.
No,
we had department vehicles.
We're driving department vehicles.
So if you drove by the bar, and I can't remember the name of the bar, it was on 2nd Street, right by the underpass.
Chicken Coop.
No, it was behind the chicken coop.
Oh, it's on the other side. So it was on.
Was it been City Limits or no?
Yes, it would have been City Limits. It was on 4th Street. It was on the north side of the underpass.
Yeah, and if you drove behind that bar on a Thursday night, it was probably like 15 patrol cars.
It's still that way. Not that bar, but like you can still drive around town and you drive by like Whitey's or Balls, and there's like 11 patrol cars sitting there from 14 different agencies, you know. Or or we'd cram in, we'd Mexi pack into somebody's city vehicle that wasn't a patrol car. It was just a city owned vehicle, and it had like the city plate on it. Let's see if we can get 8 of us inside that one. That'd be great.
Yeah, ours were for the most part all marked, light bars.
Mine was.
But I remember we came back to the training center, and we may have been inebriated. We was fucked up, but. So the guy that I was riding with was from Douglas County, I believe. And I remember pulling in, and when we pulled into the training center, this was before they had all the new edition stuff, but I remember something seemed funny when we pulled in, we parked the car. We all went into the dorms, went to bed. So the next morning we get up for PT, and we're running around the building doing laps. And when we come around by the parking lot, we notice a fresh set of tracks going right through the front lawn. Well, we had cut through the front lawn.
Oh, you'd missed the driveway.
Oh yeah. Right next to the building. We thought, oh shit. Never to get caught. So, but
I made our class run. I made the 178th run extra one day.
How'd you manage that one?
Opening my mouth. So
Not you.
Yes. So and I love him. He's actually now the director. Mark Stevenson was running PT one day. And Mark had been at the academy a couple years and was a good instructor. I gelled with him and Wyatt Hoagland. Like I had good instructors. Like I don't think Gus Hitz. I don't think there was anybody down there that I disliked as an instructor. And Mark was always running our PT stuff. Him and Wyatt Hoagland. Younger, they were out of the instructors. They were the young bucks, right? Like they're the PT guys. And we did this run, and we had a couple people in the class that every time they'd go eat 2 pieces of cake, piece of pie, and a bowl of ice cream, but then couldn't keep up on the class runs. And I'm like, we're gonna get this to stop real quick. And so we did this run. We're back in the gym. We're stretching, and Mark's like, "How's that?" And he's baiting us. Like he's gonna see if anybody's gonna take it. He's baiting us. How was that run? I was like, "Oh, it wasn't bad." I was like, "It should be more." And he's like, "All right, you can go ahead and run." And the moment I stood up, he stood up the entire class, and back out those gym doors we went for another run. And that I still remember this kid. I'm not going to mention his name, but he'll know if he ever sees this podcast. He'll go, "That asshole was talking about me." And he's like, "Well, you guys always eat cake and ice cream." Yeah, but I can keep up on a run. See, like there's a difference. Like I don't care what you eat if you can stay with us. That doesn't bother me a bit. I don't care if you can keep up with me in a foot pursuit or if you can keep up with me on a track with the dog. I don't care how many packs of cigarettes you smoke a day, how many fat kid treats you eat. That doesn't bother me at all. But if you can't keep up, you are basically useless to me. If you were slowing me down while I'm chasing somebody on foot and I don't have a cover officer when I get there, I'm going to be mad. And so, yeah, those guys, they kind of buckled down and stopped eating as much junk food and, the cake and the ice cream. Absolutely. I still go down there and eat the cake and the ice cream. Like most of the time, that's the only thing that's good down there for lunch is the cake and the ice cream. So, yeah, we made him run some more that day.
I had to run more once, and it wasn't the whole class. So PT one morning, well, I wouldn't know about PT because that's why I had to run. So
somebody missed PT.
So it was me and my roommate, and his last name was Bonachon, so I'll use his last name. I don't care. I was responsible for setting the alarm, so I set the alarm. I set it for fucking PM instead of AM. And I remember waking up, and when you first wake up and the sunlight hits you, and oh fuck, because
I've screwed
PT
up.
starts in the dark.
Yeah.
So the sunlight hit me in the face, and it's like, oh shit. So I woke up my roommate. It's like, fuck, man, I think we missed PT. And we looked, and the clock wasn't even 6. Well, it wasn't 6 p.m. So we hurry up, we throw our shit on, our PT gear, and we're going to try and sneak in. So we come cutting through the, and I don't know if the cafeteria was still right up against the gym at that time. When we went through,
No.
So we come cutting through the cafeteria, and just as we get to the fucking gym doors, they swing open, and there's Bombeck and Branstad.
Bruce Bombeck.
Both those guys come to the door. It's like, oh, fuck. They're like, Thompson and Bonachance. It's like, yep. Well, you can go ahead and change back into your classroom clothes, but at lunch, why don't you come find me? So at lunchtime, we go find him, and sure as shit, go up, change into our PTs. We had to run 3 miles over our lunch. And he goes, after you get done running, go up, shower, change back in your classroom clothes, go have lunch, and then head back to the classroom. There was no lunch. So we had to run that whole fucking lunch.
3 miles, and
Yeah.
so no lunch.
No lunch, and you still had to shower and get changed. And I was like,
And there ain't no pass if you're late on that one either.
no.
It's not like, well, Mr. Bombeck made me. No. You just eat those lumps. Bruce was still there. He was our lead firearms instructor when I went
he was
through.
firearms instructor when I was there too. But he was a cool guy. I
Go
really liked
go
him.
get your bow lats.
Matter of fact, if it wasn't for Bombeck and Branstad, I wouldn't have made it through, because when we did our final practical, I failed that. My only fail in the entire training center was on a final practical, and it was supposedly a safety violation. When I approached the door, my gun side of my hip was towards the door instead of away from the door. So they failed me out for it. So I had to redo it. And I think my redo was like some stupid DUI stop or something. But when we had to redo that, it was after class. We still had to write all the reports and then turn them back in that night. So I don't think that I got my reports done until probably 3 o'clock in the morning. And we were out on the driving range. It's week, I think it was week 11, because we were going to graduate like in 7 days. And I get called in to get graded. And they asked me to go, well, you're going to need to go clean out your room. And I was like, motherfucker, because you're going to get fired. So I'm getting ready to walk out of his office, and he's like, nah, we're just fucking with you. He goes, but we do have a question. I was like, what's that? And he goes, we're reading your report. We don't know who any of these fucking people are. So they start reading the report, and it was gibberish. It made no fucking sense. I don't even know what it was like. It just will have been talking about fucking aliens. And
You had no clue.
I must have been
You were out of
falling
it.
asleep
Yep.
and typing. And they're like, nah, fuck it. Good enough.
So I failed a midterm because I didn't run a serial number on a gun. They're like, why didn't you run that serial number? Why didn't you check that guy's shotgun? I said, if I checked every serial number on every shotgun I run across around a local, I'd never get anything else done. Like, the guy didn't give me any vibes or anything, and it wasn't even, so they dinged me on the shotgun thing, but I'd caught him on a warrant. I ran him, but I didn't run the shotgun. And so they dinged me on that on a midterm. That never happened again. I ran every serial number through the Academy County Police Department there was after that.
Oh, fuck. I'd probably still do it again. It was fun. It wasn't nothing like no boot camp in the military. It was like college.
No. Yeah, I mean, it was structured.
Yeah.
It was nothing like going through boot camp, but it was structure, and structure is what the kids that were coming out of college or coming from the workforce were kind of lacking. I mean, you could skate out of a day or two of a college class, and nobody's really going to say shit to you as long as you turn your stuff in, So the structure is what was required, but it was not like boot camp. I didn't have anybody beating me, or trying to drown me in sand. That was slightly different.
Did you guys do the practical where you had to run the obstacle course and then run down to the shooting range to shoot, and then when you come around the berm, the instructors would tackle you?
And you had to fight them off?
Yeah.
Yeah, we broke 2 kids.
Did you?
I think we were one of the last camps to do that. Jared Brabeck from Lancaster blew out a knee doing the grappling thing because we'd sprint, like we did part of the obstacle course, not all of it. And then we'd sprint from the opening of the driveway for the range all the way down to the range house. And so like your pistol was sitting on your pistol or your magazines were sitting on a barrel, and you had to fight through, whether it was a classmate or an instructor, I don't remember. And you had to get to that and then still try to shoot. Yeah, we broke a kid.
So we only had one guy get injured, but we didn't have anybody get injured on that, but we had people lose their shit. I may have lost my shit a little bit.
Caleb Erickson body slammed a dude like week 2 and broke some ribs. And I don't know if you know Caleb from he was up in Sherman County is where he was at when he went through camp. And he is a big corn-fed kid. Not overly athletic. I mean, he wasn't like no specimen, but he was farm strong. And he picked this dude up by the name of Raymer, and over they went. And all you heard was this big crack and this thud of air leaving somebody's body. Yeah. And then another kid jacked up his back and had to have back surgery. Jared in his knee, or was it Jared? I think it was Jared Broadbeck that blew his knee out. Yeah, we had quite a few of them. Like the intensity level of the stuff that we were doing physically was, and it was good. Like, I mean, I'm glad that we did it. As many people as I hand fought with or had to wrestle with, you know, like it was a good thing that they made you do that stuff with gear on. And
yeah, I got my ass kicked all the time. I weighed like 131 pounds. So I was probably the smallest guy in our class, and I got manhandled pretty easy. But so when you get out, what did you think when you first got into law enforcement? I mean, when you started patrolling and doing your own deal? And
I liked it. Like I thought it was all right. I didn't like writing reports. Still don't like writing reports. It just, all right, saw a bad guy did X. Like, why do I have to, like, if I give you the meat and potatoes, why did I have to let you know that there was 13, bug strikes on my windshield? And it wasn't exactly 8:00. It was actually 8:02. Why do lawyers have to pick that stuff apart? Like when you go to court on stuff, like, I mean, some of that I didn't like, it's attention to detail. Yeah. You put in all the facts of the case, but there was just stuff that lawyers would bring up, like during a court case, like, why wasn't that in your report? Because it wasn't relevant. In the training center, they told you that was going to happen. I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen. I've written reports. That's not going to happen. And then the first time you have to go against Greg Dowding, you figure out that he is that lawyer that is going to pull all the stops. He's going to ask you every one of those questions, whether it's in the report or not. But I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. And then over the last handful of years that I was there, the country has changed. The state was mandating cameras, not just like we always had. You guys had cameras in the cars when you were there.
yeah.
But body cams, they were looking at mandating body cameras for agencies. They mandated the electronic, the e-ticket, so we could write the tickets in the patrol car. And that cost little agencies all across the state hundreds of thousands of dollars that they didn't have, just because it made somebody else's life easy instead of having to sort the 2 mailed copies that came into the court system. Somebody had to manually enter those. Well, we're going to mandate it to where everybody has to do electronic. We were fairly fortunate, when we started doing that, we were already looking, and you remember we had Sleuth when you were there.
Yep.
And Sleuth was circling the drain. So we had already been looking at a new report system, back then. So we were kind of already on the hunt for it when they started mandating that. So we did our first jump one year. We got a new system. And then the next year is when we started implementing all of the computers and the printers and the scanners into the car for the tickets. But stuff like that I didn't like, where the state was like, well, the Nebraska State Patrol does it, so it must be the best thing in the world. So everybody else in the state needs to do the same thing. So I didn't like that part of it. And you can ask anybody. I still like the patrol a lot better than I did like sitting up in the office, even when I was the sheriff.
The only thing I really didn't like is, man, I hated fucking DUIs. Because that, for whatever reason, I felt like that always gave me the most paperwork.
No, EPCs.
Oh, well, EPCs were bad
EPCs
too.
were horrible.
Yeah, I didn't
You'd
really care for them
you'd
either.
spend 8 or 10 hours on one deal sitting down in Hastings waiting to get medical clearance. Well, no shit, they're crazy. That's why we brought them to you.
Yeah. Now, I didn't mind doing reports if I, if it was like a drug bust, or if it was, like a burglary where you spent a bunch of hours and you actually caught the
somebody.
guy.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that. Some sexual assault I really didn't care for.
I didn't like
the paperwork.
the sexual assaults, and I didn't like anything that we had with the juveniles, like the juvenile mental health. And that actually, we had a guy that came in and applied, and he was not necessarily a local when he came on, and he's like, I want to do this job. I'm like, okay, it's not what you were doing. Like the pay, like I knew he could do the work. Absolutely, hands down, could do the work. But you are going to change lifestyles on how much money you make from what you were doing until now. And then COVID hit. And our number of juvenile health crises went up 350%. And it just seemed, just like when I started, like there was a 2-year time frame that I handled every death investigation except for 2. It was just, that's how it fell on my schedule. Like Harold had them. He had the other 2 that he didn't have. And I was just like, here I am at accidents and suicides and, just all this stuff, bad crashes. And then this guy starts, and he had the same thing within the first year. I think he handled 85% of the juvenile mental health, like where he's having to take them down to not Mary Lanning, but Richard Young over in Kearney. And it was taxing on him, just brutal on his own mental health, having to deal with all that.
I think I got lucky enough that I think almost all of mine were adults. Matter of fact, I had some elderly ones that were pretty interesting. I had an elderly gal that had threatened to kill her husband, and she took off. And she must have been in her 70s. She might have been in the 80s. But I remember it was me and Dustin Strode had to go look for this gal. And we're at this farmhouse. There was some people on the highway called and said, hey, there's some old gal in our garage. And this is, probably 3-4 miles south of St. Paul. So we get out there, and we get to the house, and they said, well, she ran into the trees. So we go out there, and we're looking for her. And I had found her, and she was standing there with a shovel. So Dustin's trying to sneak up behind her, and he stepped on a twig, and she spun around, and Dustin goes, what are you going to do with that shovel? And her exact words is, why don't you come a little closer and find out?
Now, we didn't end up EPC in this one, but we had one that was living north of town, and he was convinced that his wife was trying to kill him, that she had hired a contract killer to take him out. And the eeriest sitting room I've ever been in my entire life. This lady must have had 200 porcelain dolls, like the 3-foot tall porcelain
like the creepy
dolls.
shit.
Yes. And that was their sitting room. And I was like, oh, hell no. And he's like, come up here. I'll show you the contract. I found it. And so we go upstairs, and he opens up his sock drawer, and he pulls out the warning / instruction manual for a carbon monoxide tester. See, she signed it right here. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. And he was just outside of his mind. And she was great, but they didn't have a family. Like, and he's wanting to drive all over the place, and he doesn't even remember where he's at. It just, he didn't end up EPCing, but, when that doctor told him he couldn't drive anymore, I don't remember how old he was. He was like 80-something. He's like, I'm 86 years old. I've been driving since I was 12. I'll be damned if any doctor's going to tell me that I can't drive anymore. And so, yeah, that's about how that one went. But he was nuts. They had a lot of fight left in them.
Oh, yeah.
The two biggest knockdown drag outs on the side of the road were with people that were 2 to 3 times my age.
My biggest, I think, was the lady with the shovel.
Brian Opes. Do you remember Brian Opes?
Last name sounds familiar.
It's because his dad, and his brother were all in prison at one point in time or the other. And Brian's dad fist fought me just north of my place. I came over the hill one day. I was going back to the office after lunch. And I come over this hill on the gravel, and this dude's got a trailer on, and he's facing the wrong way. And he's right on the other side of the hill. So I turned around and I go nose to nose with him, and I was just getting out to tell him, hey man, you can't be parked here. And so I get out of the car, I get out of the car, and as soon as I crossed in between my vehicle and his vehicle, his door came open and he comes swinging at me with a metal lunchbox. So got a call out for 1089. By the time Harold shows up, this dude's in a ball down in the ditch in handcuffs, and I'm picking stickers. This is mid July, early August, so the stickers are 2 feet tall, and I'm picking the stickers out of the old polyester pig suit, And Harold goes, "What happened?" I'm like, "He swung at me with a lunchbox. What'd you do?" Nothing. I was going to ask him to move a little bit. Literally, all he had to do was pull to the top of the hill, and he wanted to get into that. You remember that real junky place? I can't remember the guy's name. I can tell you who owns it, but that wasn't the guy that had all the property there. It's over off of 12th Avenue, and it was just junk cars after junk car after junk car.
12th Avenue.
Just go east from Bel Air. Just drive straight east.
Yep. Okay.
And then the other one that fought me like nobody's business was a retired college football coach who had an entire flat of airplane bottles on his front seat of Fireball, and then had 12 or 14 empties down on the floorboard. And we got him out, and I had a ride along with her. I was FTOing a young deputy at the time, and we got him out, and I started to let him do fields, and this dude tries to run back to the seat of the he was in a little S10 Blazer. And so where I was standing, all I had to do was take one step and shove him. And I 2-hand shoved him and bounced him off the car. And he kind of stopped and his eyes got real big. And I was like, "Are you done?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm done." So then I take over fields because he tried to bolt on HGN. He tried to bolt, and I just 2-hand shoved him. So then I'm explaining the one-legged stand, and he swings at me. And he brought it from left field. I mean, he brought that thing from 3 zip codes away, so you could see it coming. So I just leaned back, and same thing, just 2-hand shoved him. And we're over by Bolus, so the ditches are really steep and deep over there, and he's just down in the ditch. "You hit me, you son of a bitch." I said, because he called himself coach, And I was like, "Coach, I didn't hit you. I shoved you. There's a difference. Can we finish field sobrieties?" And so we get him up. We take him to Grand Island. We walk into the jail there at Grand Island at Hall County, and there's these 3 or 4 black dudes in holding cell number 2. And you're like a zoo animal when you walk in there. They're all glued to the glass to see who's coming in, what did they get arrested for, who's the cop, what kind of names can they call you, can they get a rise out of you? So they're all glued to that little 4-inch wide window. And Coach looks over at him. And and he's like, "You better not put me in there with them." And I was like, not as the old. He's racist. And those guys in that cell were like, "Put him in here. Bring me that white boy. Put him in here." And I'm like, "You guys better put this guy on suicide watch." So they held him, had court the next day or the day after, and we go up and get him. And we had females, so females outnumbered the males that day, so the females went in the holding cell, and Coach went in Harold's office. And you know how Harold always kept that jar of candy on his desk, and he had a bunch of chocolates in there. And I don't think that guy had eaten anything since we had arrested him. So he's eating this whole jar of chocolates out of Harold's deal. And I had a female that was back in the kitchenette area, you know, in the break room area, using that restroom. So Harold had to let this guy use his bathroom, and this dude destroyed it. Took Pat like 2 hours to clean that bathroom.
That's good
it
for
was
Pat.
Horrible.
This wasn't Coach Osborne.
No, it was not Coach Osborne. I couldn't even. I mean, I could probably go back and look years ago. Dan Skank told me this. Dan and Kay, they said, and I wish I would have done it every day like they said to do. They said, you know, doesn't matter if anything happened at work that day or not. Like if nothing happened, go home, write down in the journal, nothing of note to report today. And like do that through your entire law enforcement career. And by the time you get done, you'll have a book. And I started and I got lazy and I never so, you know, in time, all these memories will fade and I'll forget a lot of the details and stuff like that. But you sit back and you look at some of that stuff, you know, like when we track people with the dog where they come running out because, you know, they don't think you have a dog and then the dog barks and then they come out and yeah. Or when your dog bites you on a track, you know, that's always entertaining as well. So
we had our dog bite me in the office. That dog was an asshole.
He was an asshole. I did not like that dog at all.
That was Dalen Wood's dog. What the hell was that dog? Charlie?
Charlie.
Yeah.
And Charlie lived, I mean, I was in law enforcement. Like, I don't think I had gotten a dog yet, but Charlie was still around because I'd see Dalen all the time or from time to time, you know, at conferences or whatever. And Charlie lived a long time, but he was an asshole. I didn't like Charlie.
Was a jerk, man. Total prick.
My dog was way better than Charlie.
But what else?
Yeah, your dog would always come visit us on the second floor.
Mm-hmm. You remember that time he scared Bev? Yes. So I'd always I never had Jet. He was a Belgian Malinois, and I got him later in life. He was probably 6 or 7, give or take, when I got him. And I got him from the Nebraska State Patrol, and that handler was a saint, the guy that had him, because that dog was actually supposed to have been put down. That dog started his law enforcement career in Lincoln, and he bit people he shouldn't have been biting. But that wasn't a dog problem. That was a handler problem. And the dog's name at that time was Bricks. And the Nebraska State Patrol, like, well, we don't want you to put him down. We'll take him. And they're like, well, he can't ever work in Lincoln again. You know, Bricks can't ever work in Lincoln again. They're like, bet. And they renamed him Jet. And Ron Kasiba had him. And when Ron was taking a new position with ISO, I was at the academy with a young dog that probably wasn't ready to try a cert. So they offered up Jet. And I remember, man, I was more scared to call Lee to tell her that I was getting this dog than I was, you know, anytime I'd ever been in trouble and had to call Harold. You know, like I'm like, no, I didn't have to go home with Harold. I gotta live with this one that I'm bringing, you know, an 85-pound Belgian Malinois into the house. And Jet was very, very chill. Was a good tracker, good dope dog. He wasn't the best by any means at anything, but he was overly consistent. And so I always had Jet off leash when I was in the courthouse. Like his recall was phenomenal. Like I could not do that with the dog that I had after that, Justice, or before that even. I couldn't do that with them. But with Jet, I could recall him. So I'd always walk down in the offices, and I walked in the treasurer's office one day, and I stop at the counter. Jet decides that he's going to go around the counter, push the door open behind Jackie, go through the commissioner's room, and then stick his cold nose on Bev Sack's elbow. You would have thought somebody was dying. Like, that dog scared the shit out of her. And she still holds, she's like, you did that on purpose. I'm like, I didn't
He would always come behind the counter because he
Yeah.
knew that we had treats for him.
Yeah.
And so he would just come
That was
sit by me or Amy.
Yeah. The only place he ever got any treats was at the sheriff or at the courthouse or at the vet clinic. I didn't reward him that way. He didn't get treats at home. So like when we finally retired him, Lee's thing was she always got the dog's bones for Christmas. So we retired Jet, and Lee gets him this bone for Christmas, and he doesn't know what to do with this thing. Like here, and he opens his mouth, and it's just like resting in on his poor broke down canines. And he doesn't know what to do. He's just looking at you with this bone resting on his bottom jaw. He had no clue. But yeah, that dog, he was great. He was great. He latched onto me on a call one time. Corey Hansen, we tracked Corey Hansen 2.5 miles with Jet. Corey never ran from a law enforcement agency ever again. Now he's going to want to prove me wrong. If he ever sees this podcast, he'll have to run again. Because I tried running Corey over one time with a car because he ran. And then Merritt County called. He ran from Merritt County. They had a warrant for him. He ran from another agency, got away, and Merritt County had word that he was on the Merrick-Howard line. So us, and it was me and Matt McHale, and I think Lacey Tonegas had just started with us. And then it was Money, Andy Allen from the Nebraska State Patrol. And we went over and we were assisting Merritt County. And when we pulled in, we were going to take like the backside. And when we pull in, he was outside sitting on the porch smoking a cigarette. So he bolted, and to the floor I went. And I can still remember the look on Lacey's face as we were yeeting across that yard, bearing down on Corey Hansen. So, we caught him that time. And then a couple years later, he ran from Gary Anderson just outside. He was on Paul Street, on the very far west end of Paul Street, on Thompson's property there. He got him on a traffic stop, and he bolted. He was the passenger, and he bolted and got to the trees, and Gary tried to hit him with a taser and had a wire break. So, like, one probe went, but the other probe, like, went haywire off the taser. So Gary did a phenomenal job. Like, he didn't go chasing after him and screw up the scent. He took the cartridge off, hung it on the tree, wrapped it around the tree branch so he knew exactly where Corey went in, went back, called it in, finished dealing with the dudes or the other people that were in the vehicle. And then dispatch called me. So me and John Kroger were I was at home. It was my day off. It was like on a Sunday afternoon or something. And so I had just got done mowing, so I wasn't even in uniform. I threw on a plate carrier, grabbed the dog, and away we went. And John Kroger and I tracked him, and I thought we were going to kill John. It was so hot that day, middle of July. We're tracking him through a cornfield, across an irrigation canal, down through these trees. And then I had him off leash because it was so thick I couldn't keep up with him. Like, I was on my hands and knees trying to keep track of where Jet was at. And then I see Jet's ears like pin up and his eyes got big, and I'm like, oh shit. And I go to come to a knee and draw the gun, and the dog breaks and he's going for Corey. And I give him the override, and he like looks like a reining horse, like sliding into position. And he's drooling, and Corey's looking at me, and I'm like, Corey, what? I said, if you move, I'm going to let this dog bite you. I ain't moving. So I called Jet back to me, and he is just piles of drool coming off it, and he would drool when he come down to give him treats.
Well, yeah, he thought he was getting a treat.
Yeah. So this drool is just a fountain coming off this dog, and call the dog back to me, and I bring Corey out to me. I've got him proned out. Johnny Kroger's crashing through the trees, trying not to rip, because it was thick. Like, I ripped a shirt, like it was thick. So John's trying to cut a trail to get to us, and by that time I had him in cuffs. And I was like, if you move, I said, look at me. And he turns his head up and he looks at me, and I said, you see that dog? Mm-hmm. I said, if you move, he's going to bite you right on the face. I ain't going nowhere. You know how they are. And so I holstered up and got him, and then we come walking out, and Corey's like, I'm real thirsty. I could use something to drink. I'm like, I got one bottle of water, and that goes to this dog. Whatever's left, I'll dump from his bowl back into the bottle, and you can have that. Corey Hansen.
Good kid.
Good kid. And I don't think he's a bad dude. I don't think I don't know. I don't think there isn't a whole ton of of bad dudes. There's guys that make dumb mistakes. And there's guys that don't learn from their said dumb mistakes and can still make them. Doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them a little slower than most.
You know, when you got out of law enforcement, how long have you been out now?
1 year, 9 months, and 30 days.
Did you notice, I did anyway, like, you know, while you're in, you look at people a certain way. When you get out, have you noticed that change a little bit, or?
Yeah, I've noticed that it's not my chicken. It's not my problem. Now, I'm not saying that I would never stop, you know, and you know, stop helping somebody or something, but I don't have to be as alert, if you will. Like, and I don't have to be, I find myself like now when I go to Walmart and you see something, you know, you see the people of Walmart. Before I used to be suspicious of them, and now I just giggle like, this guy's got a screw loose. He's about a half bubble off.
See, I don't know. I guess when I was in, you know, there was always certain people that I don't want to say that I judged them, but obviously I was judging them. But there was always people that I thought, man, that guy is such a piece of trash. But then I get out and I start working a normal job, and they probably thought the same thing of me too.
Like, oh, that guy's an asshole.
That guy's an asshole. And then you get to talking to this person over a period of time. You're like, you know, really, he's not that bad. So, and there's been a couple people that way that when I was in law enforcement, I wouldn't say I hated them, but
you didn't trust them. You wouldn't have hung out with them.
No,
that they wouldn't have been in your circle of people.
Wouldn't talk to them at all. And now, after I talked to them, you know, is doing what I do now for a job, I could go have a beer with them. I could hang out. I could shoot the shit. And, you know, there's probably cops that I work with that are thinking, Jesus, the fuck's he talking about? But,
yeah, but you've also been gone for 15 years, and they're still doing it. They haven't experienced that. Because if you just said that 2 years ago, I'd have told you that you're probably a little, off your rocker.
I probably would have thought that too of myself. But sometimes I wonder, God, would I be a better cop now than I was then? Because I look at things a little bit different. You know, I tend to look at people now and have a bet. Because when I went in, I was 22 years old. And now I have a better understanding of a lot of the people that I dealt with, probably normal people, just trying to go to work, maybe once in a while trying to have a good time. Like you said, you know, they just fuck up or they're just trying to have fun, and sometimes they drink too much, maybe make a dumb mistake, but really not a bad person. And so I wonder now, God, if I were to be a cop these days, which I'll never do that job again, but would I look at things totally different? But then I also think, would I get myself killed because I would be maybe more complacent now than I would have been?
I don't think the complacency thing would be there. I think you'd go right back to where you were before. You know, it just being more compassionate or understanding or having, I guess, more life experience wouldn't make you more complacent, I don't think.
I don't know. Maybe not complacent, because there's still times where I won't sit with my back to a door.
Well, I'm still that way. But
I don't know. This is going to sound bad, but I'm probably more judgmental towards law enforcement than I was while I was in law enforcement, probably because I did the job, so maybe I think that I can be. Mm-hmm. I still think that most cops are great, but I do look at, certain investigations, or especially when I see stuff on the news, and this kind of goes both ways, because I've seen stuff on the news like, who was the kid that was involved in that shooting? It's been several years ago, Rittenhouse.
Yeah,
when that first came out,
Kyle Rittenhouse.
And people were going after him. I was like, that's bullshit. Because one, the problem with the media, and the media was this way when I was in law enforcement, they never give the full story. They always leave shit out. But when I first saw that, I was like, man, I'm not 100% sure he was in the wrong. And so when people were bashing this kid, I couldn't do it because I knew that they were leaving shit out and they were twisting it. But at the same time, I still see stuff on the news now. You know, I'll see certain investigations or I'll see certain news reports. It's like something with this is fucked up. Like something is not right. I'm trying to think of, I don't want to get too current. There was one that just happened that I still look at and it's like, I don't know what to fucking think of this whole deal. But
I see him all the time. But yeah, I was with Kyle Rittenhouse on that one. Like I was team Kyle. I was like, from what the news had released and how that kid acted, and he just wasn't out there spraying. I mean, that kid hit 96% of the rounds that he threw downrange hit their intended target. Like, and he took a lot before he actually did use lethal force.
oh yeah, they were like on his ass before he used lethal force.
He was on the ground.
Yeah. Well, the skateboard one,
Yep.
he was on the ground. And the other guy, I think that dude was right on his heels. And if he didn't react, I think the way he did, he probably would have been shot with his own rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he was there at all.
To
I think
cause
he was
any
there.
problems.
No, I think he was there as a kid, and he thought, well, I'm going to go help some people out. I'm going to take a firearm because maybe it was cool. I would hear people argue, well, he shouldn't have been there, and it's like, well, why? It's not illegal for him to be there. He could legally be there. Why should he not be there? I can't think of a reason not to. Is it maybe not a good place to be where you could put yourself in some
absolutely.
risk? Yeah, but
Shouldn't have been at the bar either.
that's right.
Like I put myself in situations that
So I was team, I don't want to say team Kyle, but the whole time I thought, I don't know that this kid did anything wrong. I think the media is just, they're trashing this kid. Of course, I would see shit on Facebook, and every once in a while, I've got to run my big mouth. And so I would try and be nice about it and say, well, until this really goes to court, you never have all of the details because they're not going to release all of it.
you don't ban him. You don't monitor his social media postings.
No.
He's a grown-ass adult.
See, I would basically mandate that Lee would help me keep myself out of trouble on the social medias.
Yeah. I do pretty good now.
Oh,
Like
I do great now.
This latest deal with, Charlie Kirk's deal.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't said anything. I've got my opinions.
And we've talked about that. Yeah.
And I don't, the more I look at that, the more I don't even know. Because the media always leaves shit out. And law enforcement isn't, of course, going to tell you everything. I don't even know what they're doing. I know the kids in court. I know, the video that's been released. Like, everybody's seen that. But I don't know what the fuck they haven't released. So the only thing that I've seen on it that I scratch my head is, of course, the caliber that they released. I don't even know if that's accurate.
No, I have no clue.
I have no clue either. I've downloaded and read the probable cause affidavits, but the problem with probable cause affidavits is it's just a PC affidavit. It doesn't go into great detail.
Nope,
It's
enough. It's enough.
Just enough
Mm-hmm.
for the probable cause. And so I don't even know what to think, but one thing that I won't do that I see a lot of is some people with platforms just losing their shit.
Mind. Oh,
And I don't want to go that far because there's nothing more embarrassing than losing your shit and then finding out you were wrong. Now you look like a big dummy. So now we follow some of the same guys.
Yep.
We talked about some of those videos. Who's one of them?
Valhalla.
Yeah. And I like his stuff.
I do too.
Because
and there's this, I think they're doing a good job of adding information when they get said information.
Yeah.
And they're getting pressured. These guys are on the forefront of what they do as podcasters, right? And so they're getting a lot of pressure, a lot of questions from their followers and stuff that want their opinions and their views on that topic. So I think they are pushing some stuff out, and I think they're doing an okay job. I don't necessarily agree with them on everything that they put out. Not saying not just on the Charlie Kirk thing, but just in general. We kind of talked about,
Sure.
on the in general.
All you can really do is I can offer an opinion based on the limited amount of facts that I have. So if someone were to ask me, and I mentioned this when I first saw the shooting and the first bit of details that came out when they said, yeah, he was shot straight in the neck with a 30-06. If that's all the information I had, then I would say, well, doubtful. Because a straight shot with a 30-06 to the neck, the back of his neck would be gone. But what I don't know is, did it hit something else first? Did it ricochet? Like you mentioned, it may have been a 36-06, but
did they shoot a smaller caliber through it?
Yeah.
And it never stabilized.
Yeah. So, I had what would be a good example? A 38 would be a good example, or a 357. So I think is it a 357 or was it a 44 that you can drop a 38 in?
Well, so 357, you can put a 38
in. So, and that's two totally different rounds.
You got, the cases are different. The projectile's the same, but like take a 9 and a 40, pistol round, right?
Sure.
You can't get a 40 into a 9mm chamber, but a 9mm will go into a 40 chamber, and it will scare you when it goes off.
Yeah,
the noise is not the same.
No, and all you need is that firing pin to hit the primer, and it's going to go off.
Yep.
Now, is it going to go straight? Probably not. Is it going to, it's not going to contact the rifling, so you're not going to have the spin on the bullet, and it's probably going to go haywire. But so there's all those little things that I don't know. So,
and I'm sure they haven't released us all the video because, see, this is still America, and you still are innocent until proven guilty, and you have to go through a court proceeding. But how do you pick a jury when every piece of information that the prosecution has is already out on the table? How do you pick a jury?
Sure.
When it's that high profile of a deal. So
it would be tough now because first, you're not going to find a jury that hasn't heard something. And by the time this goes to a trial, how many people are not going to already have an opinion? And a lot of people these days, like everybody falls into camps now. So nobody has like an open mind. I shouldn't say nobody, but a majority of people don't have an open mind. So it's pretty tough to change it, no matter what fact you throw in front. And Kyle Rittenhouse would be a good example because that case was laid out perfectly. And you could show everybody the facts. You could show them the actual videos that they actually had of the guys trying to beat the shit out of him with a skateboard. And I think somebody else was there with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't change your mind. It's like, well, this is totally different than what was originally reported when you formed your opinion. But now given this additional information, which shows that, he was probably going to get killed. He didn't have really a choice. And you still don't change your mind. Those are the people that I look at and it's like, it doesn't make you're not an idiot if you change your mind after you receive the facts.
But we perceive that as that weakness or that idiocracy.
Oh, yeah. When people say, oh, you're a flip-flopper. Well, no, I've got additional information.
I got new information, man.
Yeah. So
we would run into the same stuff working a case. Like you would, you go to a domestic, and 9 times out of 10, who's the assaulter? It's usually the dude, right? He's the guy that got aggressive or got physical. And so that's the mindset that we're going in with until we're proven differently. And there's been a few times where I'm like, oh yeah, she whooped his ass with a Pepto-Bismol bottle. You'll have to ask Mike Hoff her name. I cannot remember her name. But yeah, we arrested her for second-degree assault.
Well, there's still cases that I think I've probably handled, and I don't know if you're the same, but I look back at it now, it's like, God damn. I wonder if I shouldn't have looked at that maybe just a little bit closer, because I'm not 100% sure if I even got that right. Maybe I did. I thought I did at the time. I'm not too proud now that if I was proven wrong that I would, try and dig my heels in, and I would admit it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think everybody's afraid of, is when they don't want to change that opinion, when they've been proven wrong. This is the hill I'm going to die on. Well, this probably shouldn't be the hill you decide to make your stand on.
Everybody's too afraid that you're going to be, if you admit that you're wrong, or you judged a little too early, that if you change your mind that you're somehow I don't know if you want to say an idiot, but I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't want to say I'm not a conspiracy guy. I like
it's hard to not be a conspiracy theorist with the amount of shit that goes on in this world.
And there's still some that I look at that obvious ones, Kennedy or whatnot. I'm all for that. I don't mind. Some of them I'm like with the latest deal with whether it be Kirk or what's another one going on now that's, I don't know, some of that shit I'm not 100% sure I want to jump in. I'll give my opinion on what I think based on what I've seen, but I think it's probably also wise to say, but I don't know everything.
Yep.
I mean, and I know that there's going to be shit that comes out in court and you're like, oh, okay, now that makes sense.
I retract my previous statement.
Yeah, and I've seen weird shit where it looks like obviously this is what happened. It couldn't happen that way. That would just be, I mean, what are the chances? Yeah, but some weird fucking deal happened, and it just happened that other fucking way, and you're like, oh, now I feel like a fucking dumbass. But I don't know.
Yep, I don't have to worry about it as much anymore, man. Now I just get to wake up every day and go to a gun range.
I don't know. I'm still going to run my mouth on this deal every once in a while. I'm sure I'm probably going to say something stupid here, probably within the next week or two.
You're due.
Yeah, well, I've already said probably some dumb things in the last, 19 episodes. But not this one.
Not this one. This is the best one
Yeah.
yet.
Don't tell Jamie.
Oh, she just heard you say that.
She'll be mad that you said that this was the best one yet.
Well, I haven't seen all 20, and I'm a little biased, right? So, I'm going to go with episode 20 is my favorite episode thus far.
Oh, yeah. So not just to skip ahead, now you're at Hornady.
Yeah.
So what all you doing there?
So I manage the Heartland Public Shooting Park, which is a 420-acre public shooting range in central Nebraska.
And then if anybody knows anything about firearms or shooting or guns, they know who Hornady is.
Oh, absolutely. We are a staple across the country, across the globe. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you were a big game hunter, law enforcement, military, recreational shooter, if you haven't shot the company's product, you at least know who they are.
Well, if you haven't shot it, you want to.
You want to.
You probably just can't afford it.
Right. Well, we build the good stuff. There's a company that has a white box of ammunition, right? It's a mass produced, and the margin on that stuff is so low. It's really, really hard to make a living or make a quality round with it that way, I think we're making leaps and bounds across the industry with new product stuff, and I think it's going to be really, really hard for competitors to keep up with what innovations we have going on at the company. And yeah, I mean, it's tough.
Hornady seems, they're involved with every part of the shooting industry.
Yeah, we do. The PRS stuff is really big for us. 3-gun. We've got shooters that compete every weekend in the PRS, the Precision Rifle Series stuff, the NRL hunter stuff, 3-gun, USPSA, IDPA, you name it. We've got our hands in about all of those different disciplines. We sponsor. I couldn't even tell you how many matches we sponsor, and it doesn't have to be this big mammoth match that we sponsor either. We sponsor a lot of one-day matches, the company coming together and allowing me and helping me get this youth hunt back out at the shooting park, the mentored youth hunt. Those guys are in it to win it. Last year was our 75th anniversary, which I'd never seen an event like that. Like that was something all in itself. Like I really enjoy working, and I might be a little biased because I came in at a different level. I didn't have to work up from being a bullet press operator or something like that. Like I just came directly into the company and was in a manager role. But the company has treated me fantastic. Like it is a great company to work for. I can't say enough good things about them. I mean, everywhere we go, oh, you're at Hornady. It was actually really funny. Jace was flying from Canada a little while back, and I get a text message from Jason Hornady on a Sunday. And so like my phone goes off and I look at my watch and I'm like, oh no, like, why is he texting me on a Sunday? And I open up the text. He's like, flying with your cousin. And I'm like, oh yeah, which cousin? Like, what's the deal? And then I get this selfie of him standing outside the plane doing a selfie with him and my cousin who's in the cockpit, who's flying him. So, I mean, my cousin knew that I come to work for Hornady, but he's never met or seen Jason Hornady a day in his life and figured out who he was real quick. And he's like, do you know Tom Busch? And he's like, why? Jason's really apprehensive when people ask him if they know me because he doesn't know if I've arrested him or anything, if he's going to end up getting stabbed. So he's a little apprehensive when people ask him if he knows who I am. But yeah, no, that company's awesome. Like it is a family-driven deal. Like it is really, really neat, some of the stuff that they do. Like when they go around for the cost sharing or the profit sharing stuff, they bring everybody dilly bars, and Steve and Jason are there talking to anybody and everybody that works for the company. Up until a handful of years ago, I don't remember how many years ago it was for sure, but probably before COVID, before the company really started to explode, Steve was still handing out paper checks on paydays. Like he would have a list and he would know where they were at, and he would still go hand out paper checks. This is a guy that if he sees you in the hallway, he stops and asks how your day's going. This is a guy that has 1,200 employees running around, and they don't have assigned parking. Like those guys park with everybody else at the company. They'll walk through the plant. Like you'll just see them just wandering around, and they're just not the owners of the company. They know what is going on. Like they understand what each and every machine does, what its role is, how it helps how it helps the projectile with accuracy. Like these guys, they know, they have forgotten more about manufacturing ammunition than I will probably ever know. Like they are, like I sit in on these meetings and you're like, man, I didn't know we did that. Like I didn't know that was a possibility. So really cool company to work for. And they've given me a ton of freedom out at the shooting park to turn that place into a shooting destination. Like that is our goal, right? That is how Hornady wants to give back to the shooting sports. They want to give back to the community. Because every time that I host an event that lasts more than a day, well, even if it's just a day, but if it lasts more than a day, we're putting people in hotel rooms. We're putting them in restaurants in the greater Grand Island area. They're buying stuff at the local gas, outside of fuel, they're buying, junk food and pop and beer and all this stuff. And like, if you look at 4-H Nationals, which we've hosted at Heartland since 2014, last year we had 740 kids from 40 states that shoot 9 different disciplines. So we ended up with about 2,500 to 2,700 people on the property every day for 5 days. These kids put over 200,000 projectiles downrange in that 3 days of competition without a single incident. That brings in about $1.6 to $1.8 million to the city of Grand Island.
That's crazy.
Like that's what they like to do. Like unfortunately, there's not a lot of stuff manufactured in Grand Island, Nebraska that we need, that we have to do what we do. So they tried to give back in other ways. And one of them is taking responsibility of this shooting park and hosting as many events that we can possibly cram into a year, because that helps bring money back and it helps stimulate the economy. It's the same as when they do the $2 bills. When they give you your bonus check, they give you $100. Every employee gets $100 in $2 bills. And they're like, don't save this. Don't go to the bank and change it for 20s. This is the stuff that you leave tips with. This is what you buy your food at McDonald's with. Like, we want people to know that we are in the community and we're here to help give back. Like, we're not going anywhere. We're here to help the Grand Island community. So we've added 9 events since January of 2024. We've added 9 major events out there at the shooting park, and it's getting chaotic. It's getting to the point where I am busy from the first part of April until the last weekend in October. We might have about a month off in that August when it's just too hot to do anything. But outside of that, it is every weekend we have some sort of event, whether we're putting it on or we're hosting it. And then, like, this is, we talked about coming in and sitting down and being on the podcast, and you're like, hey, what's your availability? I'm like, well, Thursday I leave, or Wednesday I leave for Colorado. Won't be back till it's Sunday night, and then I leave again Thursday morning for Tennessee. So this is the time of year where I get to travel and I get to go shoot events and be an ambassador for the company and hang out with people. And the shooting community is a really, really cool community. You build friendships inside that shooting community a lot like you did when you were at the academy, or if you went through boot camp. Like, you just bond with people really, really quickly, and they become, almost like family almost overnight. So that's what we get to do now.
Who owned that shooting park before?
So the city still owns it. It was city owned, city ran. It's a phenomenal facility. The bones of that place are fantastic, right? But we live in a population. Our population base is not big enough. I've got a buddy that's got a range down in Texas that's about 680 acres, but he's 40 minutes from Dallas. So he has 8.1 million people to pull from to come out to the range. We're in Grand Island, Nebraska. We have, shy of 60. If you count Hastings and Kearney, we're still shy of 100, or maybe just right at 100. So we can't run the range like a private range where they run like on memberships. We are a public range. Anybody that can legally own and shoot a firearm can come out and shoot on the range. You come pay the fee and you move on with life. We don't have the population base to make that profitable that way. So the only way that we can make money is hosting events. Like, we've got a world-class shotgun facility. We've got international bunker. We've got 9 skeet fields. We've got 8 trap fields. We've got now 3 sporting clay loops. So this time of year is our collegiate year. This last weekend we had about 150 kids and threw 75,000 rock. So 75,000 clays in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Did they do this before Hornady?
They did, but the facility didn't always work. The city, nobody wants to spend money on something that isn't making them money. So it was really, really tough for them to devote the resources. They wouldn't hire people, so the guy that was in charge of it has 420 acres and there's 4 of them out there. Well, you can't mow, let alone take care of an event and mow and paint and fix doors and all the stuff you need to do. So the city, there was a lot of deferred maintenance stuff that when we took over. And so events would come there for a year, maybe 2, and then they'd go find something that was a little nicer, or they got treated a little bit better. So we've worked really, really hard over the last year and a half to bring all these people back. This event that was this last weekend, this is their first year back in 8 years.
Well, I think that Hornady has an interest, definitely, in that park succeeding, because now their name is associated with it. I also think it was probably a good idea, because who better to have control your shooting park
than an ammo manufacturer?
Yeah, in Hornady of all ammo manufacturers.
And they've always had a play in that park. Like if you drove by and you look at the old sign, it said Heartland Public Shooting Park, sponsored by Hornady. Like that, they've always been a part of that. And I don't think that park would have made it as far as they did without the generosity of Steve and Jason Hornady, helping bring events here. Like we used to have an event here that we were going to try to get back, but they're like, oh, we're going to move to this other range over here, but we still want you to be the title sponsor. And Steve stood his ground. He's like, if you want us, we'll still sponsor your event, but if you want everything that we're giving you right now, it better stay here. Otherwise, we'll come on as an honorable mention $500 donor sponsor. But if you want us to be that title sponsor that's spending tens of thousands of dollars in product and money, then it's going to be at our facility. And he stood their ground, and they tried to call the bluff, and it didn't work out for him.
I think what they're doing is great.
I do
I
too.
think it's good for the, just economically for the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, they're spending a lot of money, and they have not seen a ton of return yet, right? Like they're trying to take a burden away from the city, so the city can free up some resources to maybe, help out the fire department or maybe a kids program, with putting in a new ball field or something like that. So the Hornadys are spending all that money, and they're not seeing a huge return on it because it's going to take us years to get that thing to where it's going to be profitable. So I mean, they're taking a big risk on it, and I think the community, the people that do realize that, I think they thank them for it, like, because it is a big undertaking. We spend quite a bit of money.
and where else can you go fishing in the middle of a shooting park?
Right. Right.
That's the only thing I've done out there, but I've been out there that one time. I'd like to check it all out. One of these days.
One of these days when you don't have anything going on, come out on a Saturday that you're not working or something, and we'll do a tour, because that used to be the old Army ammunition plant, back in the 40s. Like there's a lot of history there. It's really, really cool. Like we'll show you where all the old properties, how they were connected and where the gates were. I can show you the old officers, the trap house, like where they would shoot trap. We left it. I know other people knew it was there for a long time, but we added this new sporting clay loop, and the company that engineered that, they're like, well, we're going to go right through this. And the guys that did all the dirt work, they're trap shooters and skeet shooters. And they're like, we're not tearing this trap out. And I'm like, no, we're not tearing this trap out. We'll go around, we'll build the road around it. And so we did. So we left that, piece of history from the 1940s and 50s, in the ground. It still has the flagpole there and that old trap house. And our only storage facility that we have basically out there is a 40 by 200 foot building that was built back in the 40s. Like there's some really neat stuff. Really neat stuff. That was kind of like the headquarters area. There was a lot of office stuff, administrative stuff going in on that piece of property.
And what did they actually do with it back in the 40s? It was just
that was the ammunition. That was where they made a lot of the ammunition that went overseas. I think they started building that in 1943, and I think it was 9 months or 11 months. I'll have to look, so don't quote me on that time frame. But they built this facility in a dumb amount of time, even by today's standards, just dumb. The amount of money, resources, and people that they threw at it to build this, so they could start manufacturing, artillery shells and bombs to go over to World War II, was really, 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 really insane. Then they closed it down. They used it as a satellite outpost for a little while, listening post, during like the Cold War. So it, parts of it had came back over the years, were stood back up. And then I think in the late 70s, early part of the 80s, that is when the government decided they were going to give all that. They were going to give all that up. And then like the farmers started renting it, so they leased it for pennies on the dollars to farm on it, to farm around these big, underground, or not underground bunkers, but these, you remember the, like you see place, you drive by them, they're like the big earth lodge, right? And guys farm around this thing, they store equipment in it. And then the government started selling all that stuff back, and the city bought that in the early 2000s. Is when they purchased that.
interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah. We'll give you the tour. It's Busch's Backyards Adventure. You can't beat our Busch.
Can't beat the bush.
Can't beat the Busch.
Do you have that on a shirt?
No, we thought about it. We thought about having Liz make some shirts up for it, but
Well, shit.
I will say this is the longest podcast.
Is it?
Yeah.
no, it won't be when you get done cutting it all down into.
Oh, we don't cut.
Mike doesn't cut.
No, it's all going to be there. But well, I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, it is a long one. Holy shit! Just realized what time it was.
Oh, hell.
Sitting at an hour 53.
Perfect. Well, we'll do it again.
Yeah,
All right.
episode 100. We'll just do like every milestone.
Maybe episode 97.
Yeah.
That's a good number.
Just don't tell you. Yeah, 97. No, let's do 99. I like 99. Episode 99. We're back to fighting on that now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Later.
Bye.
Let you wanna talk dirty. Don't talk back, let you wanna